Hi, guys.
I want y'all to know that she just prayed for God to give y'all a headlock. I'm going to put that out there right now. She prayed for God to give y'all a headlock. On our pre-podcast prayer, she's praying that this is a headlock for you. I'm letting you know right now.
First of all, if it was said prior to recording the podcast, are you supposed to put it on the podcast?
I'm not hiding nothing from the people. I'm telling the people what you're doing. I'm not hiding from my people. These are my people.
I prayed that the people get a headlock. I pray because what we call it when we have to get in each other's grip, when we have to say, hey, live bigger, live better, do you, believe God. When we have to do that, we call it a headlock. She's doing a headlock.
And our favorite little GIF, is it a GIF or a GIF? Our favorite little GIF that we'll share back and forth is that one from Roseanne where she put Jackie in a headlock.
Headlock. Get it together, sister. Get it together. Live your big life.
So just FYI, she prayed for y'all to be Jackie and get headlocked today.
I said, Lord, help everything be said on the podcast that you want on the podcast to put the people in a headlock so they can go big in their life. Let's go bigger.
So hello. Welcome to the Love Your Life podcast.
Welcome to the Love Your Life podcast.
Oh, yeah. So
welcome.
And here's the thing. We are recording this episode as a follow-up to our episode on outrageous expectations. If you haven't listened to that or seen that, go back. Don't go out of order. But behind that, because we're obviously talking about 2026, getting prepared, transitions, all those things. But we didn't want you to go into it with la sis boom ba and not have no good substance to go with it.
Sis boom ba.
Because, at this time of the year, everybody is very, very motivational, right? Very aspirational. And I'm going to just be real. Some of that just it's
uh-oh.
It's like a donut with no filling. It's no substance. What's that? There is no there, darling. So what is that? That's from some kind of episode. What show
there
is
is
that?
No there. I have no idea who said that. I have no idea who said
I'm gonna find it by the time this episode come out. I'm gonna find where the reference come from. Okay, it's in my Rolodex. It's in my bank. But there is some there here. Okay, there is something here for you if you want it. Because today we are talking about a topic that is not only scripturally based, but it's something that we probably say way more than most people say, which is you got to count up the cost.
Period, Pooh.
Of the life that you want to live.
Period, Pooh.
We're going to help you do it. And we even have a little razzle dazzle for you at the end of the episode. We have a resource that you can get to help you count up the cost. Because this episode is going to be coming out around Christmassy, New Year's. So we want everybody going in with that momentum to get those outrageous expectations. And you got to count up them costs. You got to count them up.
And so here's the thing. I think we can let y'all know that, obviously the Bible says, does a man build a house without first counting up the cost? So if you're going to go build a house, you need to know how much that thing going to cost so you can hopefully see that thing all the way through. Right? And so many times what we're finding out in life is that people are not counting the cost. They're not paying attention to what it's going to cost them to go where they want to go, be who they want to be, do what they want to do. And then they feel, so discouraged and so disappointed. And all we're saying is, hey, let's go back and do this first. Let's count up the cost so we can go ahead and let you be the boss.
Right. And if you're a person, right, this is coming up off the dome. If you're a person that has been in these kind of situations, I'm gonna give you some examples. You might have a habit of not counting up the costs. Okay. So if you're a person who gets
put my seatbelt on.
If you're a person who has a tendency to start and stop, so you get all gung-ho, you start a new diet, you going 75 hard on Monday, and you don't realize that you didn't prepare for the Thanksgiving, the Christmas, the birthday parties, and all these. You don't know what you're going to eat at none of those situations. If that's you, if you're a person who sometimes goes into situations unprepared and then you find yourself giving up out of frustration, you probably don't have a real great habit of counting up the costs, right? If you're a person who's a little bit on the impulsive side, you have lots of ideas, but you struggle with taking that idea to execution, it's probably because you're not actually counting up the actual cost. And I don't necessarily mean like you have to give something up, but sometimes you have to put something in to get out what you want to get out. And so when
Mhm.
you're looking at counting up the cost, we're talking about everything from the financial cost to the emotional cost to the labor, all of those different things, because the input is what's going to get you the outcome.
Right,
And we want everybody to not just have these expectations going into 2026, but to get the outcomes. Like, why keep talking about the same old things and never getting it?
right. And I
So,
think also we need to say, like, you're not gonna be able to plan for every single solitary detail, but
right.
we are talking about doing enough work so that you can hopefully get to the finish line.
Absolutely,
Mhm.
absolutely. And this is something when we had the Love Your Life Club, we did really talk about this a lot because we had this thing that we called the level up list.
I love
And so every
it.
single month, and y'all, we have talked about doing a
I
level up
love
list
the level up
book. I mean, like it just, if you are a Love You to Lifer from back in the day, which apparently was almost 6 years ago now, if you
2020,
are a Love
COVID
You
year.
if you were a Love You to Life from back in the day, we had these level up lists, and it would be 10 things, and we gave out one each month, and it was just 10 tasks that you either would do once during the month or you would do as like a routine or like a pattern during the month. And it was just these tiny ways to just keep upgrading your situation. And so each one of the level up list items was always a way to make you in a better position to have the outcome that you wanted to have. Like, so we would have a monthly theme, and so each one of these things will like guide you towards having that thing. So let's say, for example, your goal was like, oh, I want to make $10,000 or whatever. We might be talking about how to save a little bit of money, how to make a little bit of money, how to invest a little bit of money, those kind of different things. And so a lot of times that's the part of counting up the cost that people forget is you do have to like do those small actions of paying attention. So as we're going through today's episode, I really want you to be thinking about what am I paying for right now that I don't need to pay for? And what am I willing to pay for that I absolutely want to come in 2026? And I'm not just talking money, I'm talking
Right.
love it.
And we're gonna keep reiterating that we are when we're using the word pay, when we're using the word cost, we're not only talking about something that is tangible. It might be emotional, it might be behavioral. So stick with us and it's gonna be a great episode.
All right. So when we're talking about counting up the cost, one of the things I want you to be thinking about is who you're becoming. Like you started our last episode, we talked about these outrageous expectations about what you want for your life, who you want to become, all those type of things. So what does that actually require of you? And I'm gonna use an example of myself this morning because I got up this morning with these great expectations about I'm gonna, do my meditation, do my devotion, I was gonna work out and take my do all this other stuff. And y'all, I had a thought, like, I really should start with my devotion time.
Period.
It co and it cost me the whole
Anchor hour.
I
Period.
didn't get all that though all those different tasks that I thought I was gonna get done, didn't get done yet, right? That's the opportunity to do them
Mhm.
because the cost for coming to the podcast the cost for coming to the podcast and being able to show up with you and share with you and give you what I believe God wants you to have is that I have to give that time to God this morning to be ready for this, right? So
Period.
yeah, I'm like, oh, I could work out, and that's not so. And this is the part I want us to understand. None of those are bad things. The workout wasn't a bad thing. The meditation wasn't a bad thing. The devotion, like those, and the new season of your life is maybe have you choosing between two or three good things to
Mhm.
get to the God thing, to get to the great thing, to get to the right thing. So when we're talking about like what does this life that you are walking into require of you, I want you to get serious about that thing because it is going to require you to do some things, and part of what you're going to need to do in the process is get quiet enough to hear and to have a inkling and a little whisper and a little idea about what that thing is.
Right, because stillness is a strategy.
Mm,
And if you follow me on TikTok, you hear me say that many times. Stillness is a strategy because stillness will quiet the noise and
mm,
then you can get clear. Like sometimes you can't hear because it's too noisy.
noisy.
It's just noisy, whether it's your own thoughts, whether it's the world's thoughts, whether it's your kids' thoughts, whether it's your spouse's thoughts. Like sometimes it's just so noisy. If you don't figure out how to get still so you can hear your next move, then you don't have the strategy to be able to get that done.
Right.
Stillness is a strategy.
It is. Right. And one of those things that we talk about, like when we're talking about like what is this gonna require of me? What boundaries are required of this next season of my life?
Right.
Like, I really want you to think about that. And I don't mean just like what you telling other people you not gonna do. I'm not doing that no more. In 2026, I'm not doing this. That's not what I'm talking about when I'm talking about boundaries. That's what we like to talk about. But I'm talking about how are you holding yourself accountable? How are you setting the expectation? This is a boundary that I have with myself, right? I am
Period.
saying I am not spending this money because this money is going to my savings. I am not eating this food because the boundary I have set for myself is I don't buy junk food at the grocery store. If I want a special treat, I go out and have it at the restaurant because I'm not going to bring in a dozen donuts to my house. That's the boundary I set for myself. If I want a donut, I'm going to sit at the donut shop and have one because I'm allowed to have one. But a dozen donuts is not making its way into my house. That's the boundary I set for myself. What boundaries does the new version of you demand? That's a cost.
Here's an example that I was thinking about as you were talking. One of the boundaries I have is that I don't talk to myself rudely. I
Mm,
don't talk down to myself. So even if I set the goal or I set the standard and if I miss it, you're not gonna be hearing me calling myself a loser. You're not gonna hear me calling myself stupid. You're not gonna hear me say it's too late. You're not gonna be hearing me say I can't do it. You're not gonna hear me say that. Because one of my boundaries is I don't talk any differently to myself than I do to my friends. And I would never look my friend in her eye and tell her that she's a loser, that she can't do it, that she too old. What is she thinking? I would never.
right.
That's
And,
about
and that here's the thing. One of the things that might cost you is your habits. Maybe that's one of the costs you gotta count. Like, maybe this is a habit. Like, sometimes we think listen, I
what?
gotta say it. I
Oh
gotta say
no.
it. Some of us
Oh.
talking about, That's just who I am, child. That's just
I
who I am." Woo! Is
I
it?
hate it.
Or is that the habit that you've developed? And the new
Mhm.
version of the life that you want, one of the costs of that is the habit that you developed. I really was kind of thinking that this, like over the last couple days, like, listen, I have a very light life in the morning. I don't have a lot of people to get up. I don't have to get nobody dressed. I don't have to make no bottles. I don't have to change no diapers.
Get out of my business. Get out of my house.
So I can lay in that bed and scroll, I can do a lot of silly things with that hour or two in the morning. And really and truly, like, because I work for myself, I can roll out of bed at 7:30, wake up the teenager, take a shower, and be in the car by 8, drop her off at 8:30, and I'm cool. But I really think like that's a habit that I don't think this next season is gonna allow me to have. Partially, not because I couldn't sleep in. Like, you can sleep in late, and this is definitely not the hustle and grind 5 a.m. club.
We're
But
not. We're not.
I do know that I feel better and more like the future version of me when I've had that anchor hour of time, right? Whether I'm actually pulling out the cards or I'm just sitting with the journal or I'm sitting with a particular devotional or what have you, I do feel more like the millionaire version of me when I do that. So when we talk about like counting up a cost or having to give up a habit or give up something that might be like a comfort or a routine, it's not because we want you to not have comfort. Is that in order to get to the next season, you might have to count up whether or not that is a cost that you
Mm.
want to pay. And that 2 or 3 hours of time that I might wake up at 5:30 just organically, right? Sometimes it's later, but and I don't have anything I have to do for 2 or 3 hours. That time is like super valuable. Like that's valuable time. Am I spending that? Like when we think about time, especially like, am I spending this time on something that's going to give me a return on my investment? Or am I just like habitually doing this thing because it's like a routine that I've started to do? And your future version of you might cost you some of that stuff that is just really a habit. So when you're
Right.
counting up the costs, I want you to look through all of those things like, what does this life require of me? And what do I need to do to get there?
Okay, so how do the people do that? Where do they start?
Well, I think one of the things that we are talking about is when you start to embody the future version of you, what is that person thinking, doing, feeling, saying? How are they walking? Like sometimes we want the bank account future you, and you don't have that yet, but maybe future you comes into environments well rested. So part of what you need to do is stop scrolling at 11 o'clock, right? Maybe future you has a clarity of focus. This morning, as I was like journaling, I caught myself like writing fast. And I really hadn't paid attention to it in the past, but I intentionally slowed down my writing, right? I intentionally slowed it down because why I gotta rush? Future
Mm.
me doesn't rush. Future me has time for everything that she needs. So whether it's 15 minutes of journaling and I'm saying like I'm going to take my intentional time and write it so that I can read it back and a year from now, 2 years from now I'll be like, "Yes, Lord, you did exactly what you said you was going to do." I'm going to slow down and write that. So you have to figure out what that is, and it really does take that slowing down to pay attention to what do I want this to look like. A lot of us we'll say the number that we want in our bank account. We know that. But what does the actual life look like? And you probably do this better than a lot of people. It's like really getting into the embodiment, like future me does this, future me does that. Like that's I think a really big piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and so we probably gotta pause there for a second and just really talk to our lifers about the fact that you really do need to get a clear picture of who that person is.
Right.
Like, you need to know who you wanna be, and you can do it for any time frame. It might be, "Who do I wanna be next month?" It might be,
Right.
"Who do I wanna be in 6 months?" It might be, "Who do I wanna be in 5 years?" But you gotta make realistic steps toward who that person is becoming, and you gotta get clear about who she is. So when I think about future me, I think of future me as a blueprint.
Mhm.
Future me is a guide. Future me is a, and ooh, she bad.
Mm.
I just got a vision of her again, and she was just at home lounging in her loungewear, and it was so comfy. It was like cashmere. She was like, she was posted. She was posted on the couch. Okay, that's how much I can feel it. Like when I'm talking about my future self, I see my future house. I see what I'm wearing in my future house. I
Right.
see how I feel in my future house. I see how I conduct myself in my future house. And much of it is the same as what I'm doing now because at
Right.
some point, as I continue to embody her, my current self and my future self are going boom, smack dab, meet each
Period.
other, and I'm going to be her. And that has
Right.
happened to me so many times that it's like, whoa, like you don't even catch it because you are
Mhm.
just really taking those steps on becoming that person. So when she says that I embody it, I definitely do. I definitely do. I am purposeful about becoming who I believe I am meant to be, and that is important because who I believe I'm meant to be is who I believe God means me to be.
Mm.
I'm just doing my part of the plan. My part of the plan is to say like, Lord, where do you want me to be? Who am I? Who how am I supposed to show up in this world? And when he says, "Hey, it's like this and this," then I'm obligated to take the steps
Right.
that I need to take so that I can do my part of that process. And if you don't know what that is, I mean, we are such Bible believers.
Mhm.
It's hard for us to not incorporate that in our conversations. So sometimes on the podcast, we are going to talk about where we stand with God and what we believe about the Bible. And so I just believe like when he says I am fearfully and wonderfully made, I am.
Period.
I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. When he says I'm above and not beneath, I am. Right? And even though my real life experience might not feel that way all the time, that doesn't make the truth of that word any less true.
Right.
It
Right.
just means that I need to continue to walk that direction and embody that promise until I actually see it.
Right. Holy Ghost to tap me on the shoulder, and I'm not really
Oh
sure who it's for.
God.
I hope it's not for me.
What? What?
But you kind one of the costs you might have to give up is your worry,
Mm.
because worry is a habit. And every time you are worrying, you are not visualizing the future version of yourself. You are visualizing the worst case scenario, or you're visualizing um the the potential outcome, or you're reminding yourself of something that didn't happen well in the past. But that is a habit. And so that habit of worry might be something that you really want to give yourself some strong redirection on,
Mhm.
When it pops up, and here's the thing, because we live in a real world, when it pops up and you're like, "Ooh, I don't know how this is going. I don't know how this meal is getting paid." Look, you have to like I said this little joke like, "Okay, Jesus, it's yours." Like if you like you ever watch a volleyball game and they be like, "Boop, back on you, Jesus. Back on you." You have to get into the habit of doing that. And it is something that requires intentional like effort. When we talk about setting a boundary with yourself, I choose not to worry. Jesus is yours. Okay, Jesus, I know that this bill, they just called me about this bill. They just sent me I didn't realize this tuition was coming. I didn't know this car repairs. Jesus is yours. And then when you sit with that and you really do allow yourself to remind yourself of the fact that God's got you, then is when you get those little whispers, and that's where you follow the whisper. One of the things we want you to be doing as you're counting up the cost is paying attention to who is influencing you. Hmm. So let me ask you this question, and this is one of the things that we absolutely did on the Love Your Life Club back in the day. Who are you following? Who are you following? Ask yourself this question.
I don't know if y'all ready.
The people you follow on TikTok, would you follow them in real life? If they were on the street getting ready to walk somewhere, would you follow them? Would you trust these
Shut
people
up.
to follow behind them?
Shut
Probably
up.
not.
Shut up.
Probably not.
If you saw somebody on the street and they was walking around with 62 quarter pounders with cheese, long fingernails, they was and six milkshakes, would you follow them?
Probably not.
Some of us
So
in the
here's
picture
the
talking about, I
thing.
can't believe she eating all that, girl. What's she doing? Wasting time.
Here's the thing. What you are following influences what you are thinking. What you are thinking influences what you are feeling. What you are feeling influences what you are doing. And so if you following somebody on social media who is eating them red lobster crab bags, $200. I saw somebody had a $200 crab boil. I'm like, who is that what y'all spending on these things? And she had added this sauce and added this, and I was like, and she put it in this bowl, and I was like, is this what people are really doing? If you're saying, A, I want to eat healthier, B, I want to save money, and everybody that you are following is doing neither of those things, you are creating an internal conflict for yourself.
Right.
So how can you focus your thoughts when you're following people who are not trying to go nowhere?
And so here's the thing. We want to qualify this and say, like, we love a good tee hee hee. Okay. We love a
Yeah,
good cackle. Y'all know we like to laugh. And we've even talked about when we did the Enter the Group Chat podcast, we even share with y'all some of the stuff that we follow on social media. So this is not about dragging social media or not being able to
right,
take a joke or any of that. It is not that. But it is about following.
right,
Right? So it is about establishing in some ways a relationship with a platform that is not getting you any closer to your goal. When,
right,
this goal that you said you wanted is important and it's going to take up some time and some commitment.
right. And the other thing is you want to do everything in your power to create the standards and the opportunity for you to be successful. So if you are saying this is a place that I like to be entertained, this is a place that I like to unwind or, just relax a little bit, why would you have that be encountered to all the work that you're doing? It should at the very least be in alignment with the same work that you're doing. So your social media is definitely one of them. But who are you following? Like who are you connected to socially, right? Like, are you in some group chats that you need to leave? Do you have some mentors or some, old friends that's not going nowhere? If everybody what it was like if you got 9 broke friends, you finna be the 10th, right? Like all of
Yeah.
these different things where I think we really underestimate the importance and the value of influence because we have this term like we're an influencer now and we don't think about it. But when you think about the weight of that, I don't think a lot of people honor the weight of the word that they are wearing. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you're an influencer, I don't wanna influence you to do nothing wrong, right?
Right.
So if you and listen, if you ever catch me and it sound like I'm off track, please put it down and run the other direction. I
Mm.
don't ever wanna influence anybody to do the wrong thing, but I think there's a lot of people that don't appreciate the magnitude of the influence that they have the ability to use. So if you letting them influence you,
Right.
I'm just saying.
Because what we're talking about is what has your attention. That's our next point,
Right.
really, is what has your attention. And so what you're looking at all day, hearing all day, living all day, all of those things add up. They are a part of the process of you either staying the same or changing. And
Right.
so and we're not saying that there's anything wrong with who you currently are. We're just
Right.
saying if you have a desire for a change in one area or another of your life, when you think about your life, you have so many pockets. So there's the
Mhm.
financial piece of you, the physical piece of you, the emotional piece of you, the mental part of you. Like are you being tantalized like in your intellect? Like are you getting able to
Mhm.
think about things that really are intriguing to you, things that excite you? Do you travel enough? Are you able to spend time with family and friends the way you want to? This is so like when you think about your whole entire life, there are so many pockets that could change from one day to the next that you got to ask yourself like what has my attention, and whatever I'm giving my attention to, is it helping me to show up the way I want to in this area that I want to see growth in?
Right, and you had a post the other day where you said, like, "What you avoid controls you."
That's
And
what I said.
so and here's the thing, I need people to understand this, especially people who tend toward anxiety. If you are avoiding something, you're still giving it your attention,
Period,
just
boo.
in the least productive way possible, right? Like, I'm worried about this thing, so I'm thinking about it. It's got my attention. It's keeping me from doing anything else. But because I'm not actually, like, being intentional with what I'm doing with my thoughts, I'm still not actually producing anything. Like, it is the least productive, like, worrying itself is the least productive, but the truth of the matter is not just about what not to do, but it's also what to do. So, like, what is getting the best of your energy? I know that I am better as a product in terms of productivity, focus, clarity. I am better in the morning than I am at night. Like, can I do some things at night? I can, but it needs to be like, I don't want to say mindless, but it needs to be things that don't require my best creative effort. I am super clear and creative in the morning, which is why I'm really thinking about like, oh, I think my morning rituals, my morning routines did a little bit of a shakeup, right? And so in doing that, I'm thinking like I want to give the best of my energy to this thing that I'm doing. And that is a better benefit for me than waiting until the end of the day. And a lot of times we don't think about it in those terms because we think like our attention is just neutral and it's not. The attention that we give to something, like where your attention goes, energy flows, and you'll see results from the energy that you put out. So, paying attention to not getting distracted, right? And not letting things pull you in different directions. That also, I think it has a big piece to do with that emotional piece of it, right? Because when you are really distracted by a lot of different things, you have a tendency to be more reactive. You were talking about it, and I this is not a show that I watch, but you were talking about when we were talking about was it Dr. Simone? Is that her name?
On the Real Housewife, no, on Married to Medicine.
Yeah, so you were talking about how she could sometimes be really reactive. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't I don't watch the show. I've just seen a couple of clips." But I think when you are in a state of where you are allowing yourself to be pulled in so many different directions, it is very easy for you to have a hair trigger. And that is not going to get you where you want to go because you'll either be like gearing up to the reactivity or coming down and trying to apologize and make up for the reactivity. And so the energy that you could be putting towards the thing that you actually want, you miss it every time.
Right. And so what we're talking, we're referencing Married to Medicine, all we can go by is what are shown on the screen. Right. So
Right.
I don't know her personally. I don't know anybody that does. I can only say in the moments that I've seen her on screen, this is what I see. And I can understand how that comes out. I can understand
Right.
how that shows up. Because when you are not clear about where you stand and about who you are and about how you want life to look, but you are stuck in that high achieving hamster wheel, it's very easy to just blow a gasket. It's very
Right.
easy to go off. And as you're talking about worry, I want to go back on that for 1 second. You said it twice, and then 2 times I feel like I need to say something about it. And that's because many times high achievers are trying to win the Warrior Olympics.
Ooh.
High achievers many times believe that it is their responsibility to worry. So
Oh, why she call y'all out like that?
because I've been there. Because I know, and that's it. I know this. Like when you are a high achiever, you usually have responsibility for other people. Many times that is something that happens when you are a kid and in your role in the family. Uh, parents, not necessarily intentionally, they put
Mhm.
that pressure on a particular kid to take care of everybody else or to look out for everyone else, or in the way that they talk about that kid to everyone else, that kid is
Mhm.
supposed to do something. So it
Right.
is hard when you are growing up in that system to do anything differently. And when you become an adult, then you're probably the high achiever, the one that everybody come to for something. And therefore, you learn how to worry. You learn how to be anxious because from the time you were supposed when you were supposed to be learning how to take care of you, you weren't. So you're off
Mhm.
center. You're not in alignment. And so anytime you're not in alignment, what happens when something's not in alignment? It's shaky. And what is shaky? Worry, anxiety. It's shaky.
And I'm gonna piggyback off that 1 second because some people I think are maybe a little bit resistant to the word because 'cause they'll say, "I'm
What?
not worried.
Worry?
I'm not worried." But if you're allowing your brain to hold space for everybody else's problems, right? Like maybe you don't use the word worry, but you know that when somebody sits down and asks you, well, what are you doing for Christmas? And your first thing is, well, so and so is doing this, and so and so is doing that, and so and so wants this, and so and so wants that. You are not worried necessarily, but you are holding the responsibility for a lot of other people. And so one of the things that we wanted to definitely kind of make sure we touch on is what are you carrying right now that you need to let go of in order to walk to this next season? If you I used to have this exercise I would do sometimes, like when you try to carry a bunch of stuff and something's going to drop, right? So one of the things that your new life, your future life, your outrageous expectations will cost you. One of the things that it's going to cost you is some of that stuff that you have been continuing to carry, right? So it might have been old disappointment. So if like I work with therapists who are building their private practice, right? So if you have been trying for 6 months to get your books filled, and you get ready to start, for I'm gonna go hard in January, but you keep thinking about all those months that it didn't work, you have to release that in order to go into the next, right? That old disappointment, that old beliefs, when you're talking about like what you grew up doing, right? You grew up, mama didn't have the knowledge that we have. They didn't understand the brain science. They didn't have the access to resources. So yeah, she made the oldest daughter the one that's responsible or what have you. So you keep carrying that. Why? You're not going to be able to carry the family and your destiny at the same time because listen, I'm going to tell you right now, your destiny is not carrying your family. And I don't care who says it. Your destiny is not carrying your family. Your destiny might be to show your family the way that it could be, but God did not create in you a vision of the future for you to then say, "Well, I can't do it, God, cuz I got to carry them." Why would
Mm.
he do that? Why would he give you a dream of the future, a goal, a vision, a purpose, a plan, and then tell you you can't do it because you got to carry them? Does that make sense?
No. It doesn't make sense. But I'm telling you, culturally, this is something that happens in our community, especially. We're not the only one, but we're definitely one of the ones. And not only that, it goes all the way back to the motherland. It goes all the way
Yeah.
back to the motherland. Because if you look at this culturally, and I've worked with so many people that are Nigerian, there is an
Mm,
in there about how to take care of the elders, and not only the elders, but there's also an expectation in many communities about taking care of the other siblings as well.
right.
And so
Right.
like we have not paused long enough to say, is this something we want to continue to do we want to continue to do it this way? Is this the best way for all of the parties involved? Because my argument is going to be that no, it's not, because it takes too much from one person. And you made this point. I literally had this conversation with a coaching client yesterday about not having the energy to do both, not having the
Mm,
energy to run everybody else's life and actually run mine. To
right.
actually like love everybody else in the way that I'm loving them right now, and love me too, because it's an unhealthy space. Right? But
Right.
I think until we have the conversation about how that shows up, we're going to continue to struggle. Here's the part where the high achiever is going to get stuck. So high achiever, perk up your ear. First of all, let me define high achiever for you. I'm talking about a person who is typically very successful in their career. Maybe
Mhm.
you're the one who made it out in the family. Maybe you're the first college degree in the family. Maybe you're the one who actually has a healthy marriage in the family. Whatever, however you define it. I would define it like this. A lot of times when I'm talking to my peer group, they say, "Well, I didn't consider myself a high achiever. I was just doing what I thought I needed to do. I was just doing the
Mhm.
right thing." Okay? If you're the
Mhm.
one who's always calling yourself doing the right thing, you are probably the high achiever.
Mhm.
The high achiever is also proud of the fact that they're taking care of everybody,
Right.
that they're carrying everybody, because that has allowed them to please other people, and they are
Ooh.
oh, yes, they are then, happy that they're pleasing other folks, so other folks can be happy. And so part of this is gonna rub them raw, Cal, because
Mhm.
they're gonna have to shift some of their own identity to be able to do what we are asking them to do. They're gonna have to lay down being the go-to girl, lay down being the come through king, and be willing to allow people to take their own journey and go on their own route instead of the high achiever taking care of everything for them. One of the
Okay,
phenomena
well,
what?
if you're gonna be calling people out, I'm gonna call people out too.
Well, who do you wanna call out?
I'm calling out the parents.
Who
I'm calling out the parents who are saying that they want this dream, but they are not willing to let go of being the bestest Mimi ever in order to have the dream that they want to have. I'm calling out the parents who have adult children and maybe they feel some guilt or some shame about something that they were not able to give them during their youth, and now they have committed to a vow of servitude all throughout the rest of their life when they still young enough to actually live a life.
period, boo.
Your future version of you isn't just going to cost you financially. It might cost you that, hey, I have to sit with this discomfort while my child learns this lesson that they need to learn. And I'm over here doing what I need to be doing.
I tell my clients all the time, my clinical clients that I have when I was in practice, I tell them all the time, "Look, be prepared to keep your medical insurance till your youngest kid turns 26, because they're gonna need therapy coming from out your house. That's it. Let's just accept it. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you are not perfect, that you did your best, but your best might not have met every single need of your kid, and that your best might not be something that now, with hindsight being 2020, your best might not be something you really wanted to have passed down to your kid, but you done passed it down now.
Yeah.
So if your child has an issue, just own it. You did the best you could. You loved them the best way you knew how, but you messed up some stuff, and they need to go talk to somebody. Give them that insurance card and tell they butts go on in there and talk to a therapist. There is nothing wrong with it.
Right. Rather than sacrificing your dreams, right? Because that's what we do, right? We're not really saying it out loud, but we're sacrificing our dreams because we are worried about the fact that we did not do something in the past. That is not godly, right? Like you walk into your dream, count up the cost of like, hey, part of the cost is I have to sit with this discomfort. I have to feel some heat from my kid. And they might say some things that hurt my feelings and they might do some things that hurt my feelings. But I have to sit with this because that is part of the cost. Like people always be like, when it comes to like new you, new me, and we very much value the top of the year and people who have good energy around that. But a lot of times the reason why the vision board parties don't work is because people are spending so much time not talking about what's actually keeping you from getting the results.
Mm,
And what actually shows up when you say you want to go to the gym is the fact that your daughter wants you to pick up the grandkids after school. What
mm.
actually shows up when you say you wanna go back to college is somebody's expecting you to miss class because they want you to come to their basketball game. What actually shows up is that you have to choose between paying your tuition and their rent. And so those things that show up are the real reason why you don't get the vision. And I wanna make sure that you get the vision. So we bringing all this stuff, we count up all the costs today, and I feel like we have brought a lot of the cost to the front so that you won't be able to say, "Ooh, I didn't know that that was gonna happen." Because I would tell you, like, as I kinda have transitioned into different situations and, gotten to different, like, financial levels and things, I'll be like, "I didn't realize this was part of it." And you might not know because nobody's done it before, especially if you're the first, right? If you're the first generation who's doing
Yes.
something, you might not have anybody ahead of you to say, "Ooh, this is what's gonna happen," because you're the first person that's doing it. So, as you're doing it, you're learning, but what we're saying to you is, as you're on that path towards more emotional stability and more physical stability and more financial stability, as you're on that path, some of the things it's going to cost you are things that might make you be get the title of bougie or think you
Hmm.
better than everybody or this is my favorite one. This is my favorite one. You ready for this one?
I don't know. 2 seatbelts.
You forgot where you came from,
Oh! Here's
but
the
I
other
didn't.
thing.
I just
Here's
know
the
I
other
don't want to
thing.
go back.
Family might say too, like, "I didn't raise you like that." Because
You're right. You didn't.
if your mama is the codependent one and your mama's the one who took care of her whole family, she now expects you to do the same thing. And so she might be disappointed when you tell her that you're doing it differently. Or
Right.
she might not allow, she might not be happy that you're allowing your child to have a challenge or to struggle a little bit so
Right.
that they can figure it out. She might want you to jump in and save them. And you might be saying, "Well, you jumped in and saved Pookie, and I can see that that didn't work."
That didn't work.
So I don't really wanna do that because I don't want the same outcome that you got from Boo Boo. I don't really want that.
Right.
And so when you're going in that direction, there's gonna be these moments of discomfort, and you gotta count up the cost of the discomfort. Like, how do I deal with that? Who do I talk to about that? How do I shutter that part of the transition because it feels uncomfortable, especially if you a high achiever, because high
Right.
achievers don't like to make nobody mad.
I mean, here's the thing, guys, and we're not really just like shaming people, but chances are if you listen to the podcast, you're a high achiever.
I think
because
some.
people who don't wanna achieve, because people who don't value excellence or self-improvement, they probably not listen to this podcast. It's probably not something that they actually care about, right? Because people who are going to take the time to intentionally sit down and listen to something that's not just going to entertain them, but is actually going to enlighten them and inspire them and motivate them and give
Or
them a
challenge
real
them.
call to action or a real transformation. People who are going to be drawn to that are generally people who care about and value achieving. So that is a good chance that you're a high achiever if you listen to the podcast.
Right. And here's another thing. When I'm talking to my coaching clients, many times we have to have this conversation about how, ambition used to be a superpower, but now it's kryptonite. That,
Mm,
many times because you're the high achiever, you are so aligned with being ambitious,
yeah,
but you now are in this cycle of overdoing,
right,
overgiving, and it's weakening you. And
right.
so if you find yourself, meeting the criterion, is it criterion or
Mhm,
criteria?
mhm,
Criteria for being a high achiever, that's okay. You're in good company.
mhm.
We consider ourselves people who probably had that designation too, but we are just revamping that identity to include
Right.
being high achieving in self-love and high achieving in peace and high achieving in alignment and high achieving in joy. And so you can be ambitious and be aligned at the same time.
Which is such a good segue to our final segment for today. Such a good segue because
Okay.
one of the things that we both very much have lived by, I'm gonna say in at least the last 10 years, but maybe even before that is you want to make sure as you are moving forward that you are basing it all off your values, what you truly value. When you go back to your core of what I believe in, what I want to live by, what I want to be known for, what lights me up, what feels good, it is so much easier to stay in alignment. When you have identified your values, something comes up, it either lines up or it doesn't. It's like it's either it's like, nope. And it becomes so much easier to release things. I'm not gonna say easy, but it does become easier. I had one of my clients that I had last month, she sent me a message, I think a couple days ago, and she said, it's crazy how 'cause, you know, and we had like a strategy session where we outlined a plan for her to grow her practice. And she's like, "Now that I'm doing it, it's not hard." Like, she's like, "It actually is, like, much easier than I ever thought it was going to be," because we got crystal clear in the strategy session on what are the things that are important for your business in this season. If it doesn't line up with this, it's a no. If it does line up with this, then you can consider it as, you know, whether or not it's gonna be a yes. And so she doesn't have 8,000 things to do anymore. She's just going line by line. And she's like, and she said, "I feel myself getting stronger because she's doing the work." When you haven't taken the time to align your values, when somebody presents you with something, it might feel like, well, maybe this is a good idea because you don't know. I know very clearly whether something is or isn't a good idea for me because I know what my values are. And it's one of those things that, you know, in a counseling world, we love to do is to have somebody do a values assessment or, you know, pull out the values cards or, you know, values worksheet or what have you, because it is so illuminating to not only what you should be doing, but like what's causing friction and frustration in your life. Because if you are not in alignment with your values, you are going to be very unhappy. Doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter how much time and opportunity you have. If you are not aligned in your values, then you're going to have a hard time with it. And a lot of times I think people they go for the superficial stuff and then they don't actually get the result that they hope for. So as you are identifying who is this future version of you, I want you to really be clear about what does she value? What are my core values that I know are already in alignment with my future version of myself? And how can I make choices and decisions that are in alignment with those values? There's some things like I have one of my parenting philosophies that I've had for at least 15 years is I am parenting children, but I am raising adults. I value growth and
Right.
I want my children to be self-sufficient. So when I make decisions, and I have teenagers through it, you know, not quite middle-aged adults, right? So when I'm making decisions, then my yes is this helping them? Like, is this a parenting move that is meeting them where they are? Or is this a raising of them that is telling them what they need to have? And so sometimes it's a yes for one reason, and then sometimes the same it could be a no for the same reason, and it's based upon the kid because where the kid is and what they need, the value is the same. The decisions will be different. And so one of the things like when I'm hosting a workshop in January for therapists who are growing their practices, and I'm teaching them my decision making framework, which is does it line up with your values? It becomes so much easier to make decisions when you know what you value. And if you haven't done the work to know what you value, that becomes much harder. So, and I think as and you probably even been talking about this even recently, like just kind of thinking about, you know, what products and services you're offering in 2026.
Yep.
And talk about that a little bit. Just talk about it a little bit.
What you want me to tell them? The products and services? Okay.
Well, just tell the people about how you chose to make some adjustments to the way that you do business. Because I think, and here's the thing, guys, we know that not everybody that listens to the podcast is an entrepreneur. And we know that not everybody who listens to the podcast has a lot of flexibility in their own, you know, like current job situation. But we always want you to be aware of the opportunity. And you have the opportunity to design a work life, a professional experience that feels good for you. And even though we are sitting here, right, we are sitting here telling you how to do this, this is still work that we are doing every day. Liz has not always had a toddler to raise. So the work that she is doing is say like, hey, this new season is going to require something different of me to be prepared, right?
Yeah.
So we are still doing this work. So this is not like we telling you what we did, now do it. No, we doing it because in each season things will change. So tell them a little bit about how you reflected on that process.
Well, yeah, I think it's important to I am a board certified coach. Calvin is a certified coach, and I'm also a licensed mental health counselor, and Calvin is a school counselor. And so, we practice what we preach. So when I tell people that healing is a process and it's a lifestyle and it's a journey, I don't. That means it doesn't stop. There's just
Mm.
different iterations of it along your route, right? So on your marathon of life, there's going to be different things that you're going to have to pay attention to all the time. And one of the things that was important to me was that I wanted to parent from a place of fullness and not from being empty. And so that meant when I was, late in the pregnancy, I decided I'm going to close my clinical caseload because I have a clinical caseload. I work with professional athletes. I have a coaching business, and I'm going to have a baby. Like that's not in alignment with me.
Right.
So now, I'm with my daughter a couple days a week, just the two of us, and she doesn't have to go to daycare and she can be just with me because I created a schedule that allows me to be able to do that. And so
Right.
now we're in the next phase, right? She's a toddler now. And so things are a little bit different. And I had to decide like what's important to me along my career path that is also in alignment with how I want to show up as a mom. And so
Right.
I got very clear about who I wanted to work with and how I wanted to work with people. And one of the things I wanted to be able to do was to give people luxurious experiences, lux experiences, to set them on their journey. So in the spring here, January, is January spring? January is still winter. January is still winter.
It's winter. Well, I mean, it's not
When is
spring, but
spring? March. Okay.
it's like March.
Yeah, in January. I'll be hosting a webinar on going from vision boarding to vision living. And that's what Calvin was talking about, that embodiment. Like I did learn how to do that. And that's a part of the reason that now I'm in the middle of a season of life where I can make my own schedule, where I could
Right.
actually line it up the way I wanted to and do what I want to do as a mom and do what I want to do as a business owner. Because I didn't just become a parent and lose my personhood. I'm still a person, even though I'm a parent.
Right.
And I enjoy working. I enjoy what I do for work, but it has to make sense. It has to be in alignment. And I would not allow myself to be overworked so that that gift dries up. Like the reason why
Mhm.
I can get on a call with somebody and we can get straight to the point in just a couple of minutes and they can leave that call with hot fire is because I am operating from a place of overflow and fullness. I
Right.
don't allow myself to be empty. So I've launched my affirmation card deck that is for the anchor hour. Um, because I've always been a person who prioritized that quiet time first thing in the morning, that stillness first thing in the morning, and a little reflection at night. So that's one thing we're doing. Webinars and master classes and just Lux experiences for that high achiever. And also, it's so important that you can just hit replay and play it again and again and again.
Mhm.
We want people to kind of create their own personal libraries of what they need to actually be successful in this life.
Yes. Yeah.
Right? So, when people come in our kingdom, in our world, that's what they're gonna get, and that's part of the reason that we launched the podcast is we wanted to be able to put this legacy out here, leave this legacy. People can come and listen on Spotify and Apple any day of the week and grab a tidbit or a hint about how they can go forward and live their lives and enjoy it a whole lot more. Did I tell the people?
I think we should call it Love You to Lifeland.
Love you to lifeland? I
Mhm.
like
Yeah,
it.
he was into it.
I like
And I have
it.
that vision of that, remember when Rudy created her own land?
Yes,
So
because
it's I mean,
that was
it's
my jam.
and there's none of the, what were the mean people? What were the bad people called?
I don't remember what she did. They said, "Well, do it in your face."
Right, so we're not gonna have none of the do it in your face people in the Love You to Life plan. It's just happy flubaroos. We just having the
Yeah, the Peru's,
flubaroos
yeah.
in Love You to Life land because
Mhm.
our goal here, guys, we know that the rest of the world is not perfect and that you live in that world, but we want you to have a little reprieve in Love You to Life land where we're
Mhm.
talking about how things can be and how you can move and shift so that those worlds feel more in alignment. And I really wanted you to bring that point up, not only because we want people to know that they can sign up for the class coming up real soon, but also because the idea that putting it on paper makes it happen. Like I think sometimes people get the mistake of, "Oh, I'm gonna do my vision board and everything happens."
No,
No, there is an actual process. And when we used to do vision board classes, like the way that we used to do them, it wasn't just like get a whole bunch of pictures together. We
no.
take you through exercises to
Yes,
prepare you. Maybe we should put that, like maybe we'll make that available to you guys as well, like the old one,
that
so
old
that you'll be
vision board class.
prepared for the live event because we'll take you through the exercises to
Mhm.
prepare you to know your values, to choose what you're willing to pay for your future self. And here's the other thing, what you're not willing to
That is
pay.
a good one right there. Oh, I love
Because
it. I
sometimes,
love
especially at this time of year, a lot of people start talking about like traditions and what we should do and what we've always done. And sometimes that's not what needs to take us into the next season. I know a lot of people this year, for various reasons, either there was a layoff or a financial change, or just because things are more expensive. They're saying like, "Hey, we're going back to basics. Everybody get 3 presents. We know, we having a mild this, or we not traveling or whatever." And on one hand, I think like, "Oh, that's terrible. Why should that happen? Because people go to work every day." But on the other hand, I think like, why shouldn't it have been that to begin with? Why maybe we do need this little, like, values
A
reset
reset, yeah.
from getting clear about what really does matter. What really matters is the time that I have with my family. What really matters is that, we get to reflect on how much we support each other and how much we love each other and how much fun we have together. That makes sense,
Mm,
and maybe that's really the point. So, we hope that today has given you what you need to count up the costs for the future version of the life that you are designing to have. And we want to make sure that you do know that in the description box around this video somewhere or around this audio somewhere is going to be a tool, a slew of resources to help you transition. We have some worksheets for you. We'll have the registration for the upcoming experience for you as well. Let's leave it. We'll even put in where the Anchor Hour cards. We'll make sure that you have access to those too, because maybe your morning time needs an upgrade too. Maybe you need some upgrade time. So we'll make sure all of those are included for you. So check that description box to make sure that you get the resources that you need, because guys, we may only see you a few times per month, unless you're following us on our socials, which is
right.
all
You're
included
on there every day on
in the
social,
script, right? And we put a hot fire every day on socials,
and we
okay?
too, and we too.
So, if you are not but you still wanna, "I need a little bit more, I need a little bit more." Make sure that you grab those resources so that they can help you to stay motivated and encouraged to love your life, because in Love You to Life land,
I
it's
love
all
it. Yes,
good.
do it. Let's do
It's
it.
all
Let's
good.
do it.
It's
Love you to life,
good.
man. I love it.
And you know what? Back in the day, we talking about this is a spoiler alert. We've been talking
What?
about having a Love You to Life,
Reunion.
reunion for our club members, and
Yeah.
we at the time, they were like, "We need T-shirts. Maybe I'll make us some T-shirts." I don't
I
know.
think
We
we need t-shirts
we
this
have
season.
so many good things coming in 2026. I hope y'all are ready for them, because they are coming.
Mhm. Yes, because in Love You to Life land, I mean, it's just a great place to be.
It's all possible. It's all
Y'all just
possible.
wanna be here. Y'all just wanna be here.
All right, we love y'all, and we will see you next time.
All right, see you later.